Greenhouse people, we are back with another episode of Tech on Demand, where our goal is to help you grow your best crops ever. I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and throughout 2026 and probably beyond, I'm going to catch up with different people in the professional horticulture space to find a little bit more about their careers, their passions, their journeys in the world of plants, and much more. I'm calling these conversations Pick 4 because I sent each guest a list of 12 questions, and you guessed it, they picked 4 to answer and discuss. Today, I'm joined by Diane Blazek, Executive Director of All America Selections and National Garden Bureau. Diane, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill.
I think that we're going to have a good conversation. We've known each other a long time, and I know that you have a lot of different experiences in the whole horticultural realm. And your career with NGB and AAS exposes you to all different sides of the industry. But along those lines, before we get started, can you tell the listeners a little bit about that role and what a day in the life of a person in charge of 2 major industry organizations, those being AAS and NGB, look like? And while you're at it, maybe explain what both of those organizations bring to the industry, because I think they're really integral to horticulture in many ways.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you say that because I think they're very integral to horticulture. First, I'll start talking about the 2 organizations. So All America Selections is, in very basic terms, a plant trialing organization. For years and years, I have said, think of it as the good housekeeping seal of approval. And then somebody said, you might want to talk to a younger audience there. So I have to find something else to describe that. Maybe, it's good Yelp reviews from professionals, I guess might be the better way to describe it now. In fact, we offer reviews on our website, so anybody can go on. So if you
It's
or
kind
your
of the
listener,
blue check mark on Twitter, right? Like it's the verified.
The verified. There you go. That's a good way. Well, are we still going to talk about Twitter? Who knows, where it's
Good
going.
point.
But yeah, anyway, that's All American Selections. For National Garden Bureau, the easiest way that I describe it is we are a mini marketing and PR firm for the industry. So we have members, we have, breeders, brokers, growers, retailers, and a lot of garden communicators, book authors as our members. So we are promoting them, their products, their companies, their brands, whatever the case might be. So those are the 2 organizations. And then what's a day in the life look like? It can be very erratic and it can be very mixed. Like I may be talking to our accountant and then I may be editing videos and then I may have a board meeting and then I may be hosting webinars and then we might be doing a design of our annual report. So it's very good for somebody who's like a jack of all trades because there's a lot of things I get to do, both, nitty gritty, detailed projections, as well as creative things. So yeah, it's a good variety. It keeps me hopping.
Well, and that's cool. I think it does take a very unique person to be able to do that diligence of sort of the financial and I guess strategic side of an organization, as well as being super creative and all the communication that you do with communicators, which can be easy or challenging depending on how you look at it.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for explaining it that way. And I guess I was thinking a fun fact for the listeners is that when I started at Ball more than 20 years ago, you were my first boss. And at that time, right, you were publisher for all of Ball Publishing. And thinking about like the scope of that gets to this jack of all trades mentality, because there were 3 magazines, Grower Talks, Green Profit, and Floriculture International, a book publishing division, a trade show business. Like, I feel like you were a jack of all trades 20 plus years ago as well.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually, it's funny because one of the HR tests that we took at Ball was through the Ball Foundation. And that's where I found out that's my aptitude is there are a lot of different things. And so for forever, I was like, well, I need a job that's going to fulfill all these things or else I won't be happy in my professional life. So that was a wonderful thing to learn.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're going to dig into a bunch of those different facets of your personality and how you work in our industry here in a little bit. You ready to get into the 4 questions?
I certainly am.
All right. Question one. And this is a really good one because I think we can all learn from each other here. I like to listen to how other people in our industry answer this question so I can have some ideas of my own when confronted with situations. How do you explain our industry to strangers or friends or family who are not deep into horticulture?
So there's actually probably two funny stories about this. So back when I started at Ball, which was 1993, my dad, who was a tree lover, right away was like, "Oh, can you tell me about this tree and that tree and how to da, 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 da." And I had to explain to him that the industry was so segmented that I didn't have a clue about trees. I said, "Here we are. We're primarily about annuals, and then over the years we got more and more into perennials and then vegetables and everything." So when my family hears horticulture, they think everything in the yard, which was pretty
Yeah.
decent
Fair.
explanation. It was just at the time I was focused on a very small segment. And then a couple years ago, I was invited to speak to a group of high school students. And so I started out by saying I'm in horticulture, and one little hand goes up and it's like, "What is horticulture?"
Mm,
And so I said, "Well, think of it as gardening. If you're digging something, you're probably gardening," which
yeah.
which is kind of funny because then I don't know, maybe a year after that, I was speaking to college students and I said something about gardening and they were going to help me with a research project. And he said, "Well, how do you really define gardening?" So that's when I really kind of went in
Mm,
depth, like, well, if you're digging in the dirt, but then I backtracked and I said, well, if you go buy, a mixed container of annuals or vegetables or something, that's gardening also.
it's true.
So it kind of depends who you're talking to, how you explain it. But the number one thing I always say is it's absolutely the best industry to be in.
Mm,
We like going to California spring trials. I will say to people, I'm like, this is my job, but I get to go to California and look at all these pretty flowers.
yeah. No, it's true. Okay, so yeah, I think that defining it through the lens of gardening, certainly a lot of people can understand that. But you're right, flowers, plants, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to explain. Like I think for a long time, my daughters basically told everyone that I was a florist, which people understand also. Like you go and get your flowers at the supermarket or at the local florist. And I said, well, that's kind of a part of it, but yeah, it's a challenge, but you're right.
Yeah.
Everybody expect you to help them with their landscape.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
man, I
Oh,
know a
can you
lot about
design?
annuals. Like, I know a
Yeah.
lot about annuals and some about perennials, but when it comes to trees and shrubs, no, I'm pretty weak on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and good luck narrowing down that definition. I mean, you've been in the industry a long time, and so have I, and I think we still struggle with explaining what we do. But you're right; it is wonderful and the best industry we could work in. All right, question number two. This is a little bit of a personal one you chose. I like this. Do you have a morning or evening routine or ritual that you'd like to share with the listeners? And why do you do this?
Well, I thought about that when I was picking this question, and I think I'm going to say something that a lot of people are like, why would you do that? You shouldn't do that.
Hmm.
So, well, not the first part. The first part is I go get my coffee because I cannot exist
Yeah.
without my coffee. And while I have my coffee, I check my work email.
Okay.
Just that's the first thing I do, and I know that I've heard a lot of experts say, "Leave your job at work," I just
Hmm.
can't do that, and I think it's part of me is, "Oh, is somebody gonna email me with a disaster or a
Hmm.
complaint or something like that?" Well, 99% of the time, I don't have that. Lucky me. And so it kinda starts my day out right. It reminds because I look at my calendar. I also have to know how to dress. Am I doing a webinar that day or
Hmm.
something? So, yeah, I check my email and my calendar while I have my coffee. Kinda
I don't
boring.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, one of my goals is to like get one work thing done before like people get up. Like I have an hour in the morning before anyone else gets up. So I try to get one work thing done. And again, you hear, oh, well, you gotta, start your day later, decompress in the morning or something. I'm like, nah, just it feels good to get ahead of things. But Huh. So do you check it on your phone or on a computer?
No, on my phone. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
snuggled up in my favorite little chair and I have
Nice.
my coffee and I check my phone. And I think part of the reason I do that is, we've always worked very internationally.
Mhm.
And so if we have somebody from Europe or Asia asking us a question, I want to make sure I answer it as soon as
That's true.
possible. So I'll do that. I don't just check it. I'll answer it if it's something easy to ask. But yeah, so I'm just, cozied up having my coffee and just take a glance at my day.
Do you drink fancy coffee or just like a Keurig or drip coffee, or what's your coffee of choice?
I'm pretty basic, but I just changed it lately, and my creamer is now a protein drink because
Oh,
I feel like getting protein. I'm not a breakfast eater, and
okay.
so if I get my protein first thing in the morning, I think that helps me be a jack of all trades and have
There
energy
you
to do
go.
it.
No, that's good. That's good. And I do not think there's anything wrong with checking your email in the morning
Okay.
as long as you're not like as long as it's not like stressful.
Right, right.
It
If
sounds
it
like
was
it's a
stressful,
stress
hopefully I
reducer.
right.
Cool. All right. Question number 3. What's something about professional horticulture that annoys you, and how would you change it?
Okay, I think it's annoying that the perception is that we're a low-paying industry.
Mm,
And, maybe that is true, but I'm going to make a broad statement and say I think there's a lot of industries that have minimum wage and then there's not minimum wage. And I'm not I'll have to look at the Grower Talk salary report, I haven't looked at
mhm,
it in depth in a while, but I don't think it's all that low paying. And how would we change? I don't know how we change that misperception. I think what Seed Your Future is doing and getting people to talk about what they're doing. I was just reading some notes from Charlie Hall's advisory board that I'm on, and they're actually increasing their enrollment in horticulture and they're doing some very interesting things there. So,
yeah,
I love that. And I don't know the answer. I'm not an expert there because nobody's going to sit there and say, oh, I make this and this a year.
right.
That's just not how life works.
No.
But I think it's just a misperception like farming, nursery, horticulture that all kind of has this impression that it's low paying. And we have a flourishing industry with a lot of people in it. If it was that low paying, nobody'd be working here.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I wonder if part of it is just the historical the owner, like the family owned business. And I've heard consultants say a lot, over the years, like, you're not paying yourself enough. Like, make sure you're operating your business so you can pay yourself a good salary that reflects the amount of work that you put in. And so maybe that's part of it, is that the owners traditionally haven't paid themselves enough, but hopefully their business value is going up. Their land and property that they're on has value. I wonder if it's also like the amount of hours that you put in the spring. And if that question's asked, then like on June 1st, you're going to be like, I do not make enough money for the last 2 months of, 70-hour weeks that I've put in. Like, I wonder if that's an element of it too.
Maybe ask in like November when there's not as much going on and
Yeah.
the answer might be different. Like, hey, this is great.
Yeah. But
But
it's a good
yeah,
point you made that we have a flourishing industry full of, people in all sorts of different roles. Like, it's amazing when
right.
you go to an event like a Cultivate and all the different roles that are required for, a successful industry the size of ours. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities too, maybe more now than ever before.
I agree.
It's a good one. Let's change that perception. Maybe it's that we just say it so much, like, wow, it's an industry of passion. Like, if you wanted to make money, you wouldn't be in this industry. You hear it all the time, and it's almost a
Right.
cliche.
Right.
And some of the
Right.
people who say it, you look at and you're like, ah, you're doing pretty well. Like, and you
Doing
seem
okay.
really
I see
happy,
what
and you
you're
work
driving.
outside, and you seem
Yeah.
happy and healthy. And
Right.
we're in California looking at flowers. All right. Final question. I'm glad you chose this one. I was actually really hoping someone would. You're the first who has. What are 3 tools you couldn't live without or couldn't do your job without? And they can be hand tools, technology, kind of however you want to approach it. 3 tools.
Okay. Well, I've already said one, and it's my phone
Yeah.
because I can't do without it. I mean, we
Yeah.
record videos, we take pictures, and obviously I check my emails and all the apps now. I just, yeah, just hands down. I could not do my job without my phone. A website or tool that we use here in the office, and I've heard so many people that are happy with it, is Canva
And I was
for
guessing you
all
were
of our
gonna say that.
graphics.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Huh.
absolutely that. And then I think my last one, and this is almost embarrassing that I haven't used it, for years and years and years, complained like summer is my busy travel season and I can't keep my garden watered. Well, 2 years ago, I finally bought and installed drip irrigation. My gosh, that is a total game changer. Total game changer. And then I gave a set to my daughter and her husband, so they have them along. And now I'm wanting to buy a second set and a third. I got to have one in the
Yeah.
front, one in the. Oh my gosh, on a timer, drip irrigation, life changer.
Yeah. And, like, just ballpark, what's the total cost for that? I mean,
Oh my gosh, it was not much.
I was gonna say
I 50
I was
for
gonna say
one that would have
$100
watered.
top.
Yeah, totally
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think and talk about, like, something that we should be promoting to just, homeowners and gardeners, like, really makes things easy. It takes away one of the biggest sort of barriers that people talk about. Well, I'm not gonna be home for, 7, 8 days. Well, now we have a great solution, like, yeah, I think that's a really good
It's
point.
so
I
true.
do not have it. Now I wanna look into drip irrigation.
Oh, you must. If you have containers.
Mhm. A
So,
lot of
yeah,
them.
like, my daughter, I plant, like, 5 containers in a row right by their front, and
Yeah.
the first year, couple things died because they just didn't get around to it. Last year, they were beautiful, and then I did the same thing with my sister because she, like you said, she was like, "Well, I'm gonna be traveling a lot this summer, and I don't wanna have to pay somebody to come out and water." I'm like, "You do this and you won't need to."
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I can't
Okay.
believe I was this many years old before I finally figured it out.
So you got a phone, Canva, and drip irrigation. 3
Yes,
tools. Wow, that is spoken like a true green industry nerd. I love it. I love it.
it is, and a
All important things.
multitasker.
It's true. It's very true. Oh my gosh. Well, Diane, thank you so much. That was fun. And actually, I knew it would be because with all your experiences across the wild world of horticulture, I knew it would be. I guess one question I've got to ask you, just since I've got you, and this is going to come out of the blue. How did you first get involved in horticulture? Like, what was your first, like, exposure to the industry, I guess?
Well, I there's 2 ways of answering that. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so
Right.
from a very early age, I had to do the dreaded tomato patch weeding because I don't like
Gotcha.
heat, and Missouri in August is hot. But then I also got to shell peas. I remember shelling peas, and they would bing, 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 in the metal bowl.
Yeah.
So I had a good experience and a not so good experience. Obviously, I hate weeding.
Right.
But then I was in my 20s and I saw the job for Ball Publishing being advertising sales, and I was just like, horticulture. I didn't exactly know what horticulture was. I was like,
Right.
sounds kind of like maybe agriculture. So I applied, and come to find out, they were like, well, if you understand agriculture, you will understand and get along well with the people in horticulture. So
Yep.
that was
Oh,
that
that's
was
good.
really the first exposure.
Okay. So you saw the word, you had somewhat of an understanding, you had a history or childhood in agriculture, and it
Hmm.
just sort of worked out. I love it. I think that's
Yeah,
great. And I did not know the answer, so thanks for humoring me and letting me throw
sure.
one last question in.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for your time and for all that you do. Before I close, can you let the listeners know where they can find out more about AAS and NGB and maybe one thing that they can do to either get involved or leverage what these two organizations are doing?
Okay, All America Selections. The difficult URL to remember is all-americaselections.org. The
Yep.
easy URL is aaswinners.com. And
Perfect.
then National Garden Bureau is very simple. It's just ngb.org.
Okay.
And boy, it's kind of hard to say one thing that we do because basically everything we do is free for the entire industry to use.
Okay.
The AAS winners, the website is there. You can use the logos for NGB, all the new varieties, the year of program, the
Mhm.
combinations. Yeah, there's a wealth of information. In fact, our programmer says, wow, you guys add more to your website per week than any of our other customers.
Wow. Well, that's cool. That doesn't surprise me though, because you guys send out a lot of press releases and information to the industry too. So Well, that's cool. I will put links to both in the show notes, and I do encourage the listeners to get in there and check it out. If you haven't engaged with AS or NGB in a while, like Diane said, constantly updating, adding new information and resources. Got to check it out for sure. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Bill. It was a delight.
I think that wraps up this episode of Tech on Demand, but I can't close without reminding you to subscribe, like, and share the podcast with your peers. There are more than 200 episodes in the archive covering a wide range of topics, really something for everyone in professional horticulture, garden center retail, landscape, CEA production, and more. Take care out there.